Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Unit Lost. Me and Mr. Kirioth have been playing an absolute shed load of Overwatch, as I'm sure you're all aware. However, the beta is about to come to a close, and we thought it'd be a good point to give our beta review up until now, because what's happening is it's going offline on the 10th of December, and I think it comes back online sometime in January. We're expecting there to be quite big changes when the game comes back. We're expecting things like Bastion and Torbjorn to be totally remade, maybe new maps, new game modes, and all of that stuff. But what I want to talk about with Kiri, because me and him have been playing the game an absolute shed load, as I say, is how would we review the beta? What are the main talking points? What have been your experiences? What have been my experiences? Because if I just take you guys back to a video we made a couple of weeks ago where we spoke about our 100-hour experience with Overwatch, it's interesting listening back to that because some of the things we'll say now are different to what we believed back then. Yeah. This is because the game's got the meta, it shifts quite a lot, doesn't it? And these little changes which come into various classes, heroes that get changed, it drastically changes stuff. So yes, say hello, Mr. Kirioth.
I would really like to know what I am supposed to do between the 10th of December and the beta coming back. Because I've been playing the game like every day since we got in. I'm going to be lost. I'm going to be absolutely lost and know what I'm supposed to do myself. It's going to be a trying time.
The thing is, there's a lot of us, it is, yeah. The guys who've got access to the beta, I'm pretty sure everybody will be in that case, unless for some reason you just really did not like the game and you just didn't want to play it again. This has become my go-to game. Like, I play the game a lot. It's like, game of Overwatch, yeah. Game of Overwatch, yeah, let's play Overwatch. It's been a long time since I've had a game which has been like that, and it's astounding to me that Overwatch has managed to do this, because it's not, this isn't something I thought would have held my attention as much as it does, and probably will continue to do. So, for me to put into words, to explain to you guys how it feels to play Overwatch is very difficult. I mean, we can show you what it's like to play the game on YouTube with videos and stuff, but actually being able to play the game makes a massive difference. I spoke to a lot of guys who played in the stress test weekend, and they were like, this is really good. This is a lot better than it was when we were watching it on YouTube or watching streams. I think it's one of those games where you really need to feel the game by playing the game, and then suddenly the game gets much better. Yeah, you do, yeah. But isn't that a problem, though, with, marketing, I guess?
Well, in a way, it's a bit of Overwatch is a bit of a weird one, because there's been a massive amount of discussion over the fact that, loads of people didn't get in, they wanted to get in, and they felt it unfair that other people did. But in a way, I kind of feel like that was a little bit of a mistake on Blizzard's part for making the closed beta available to so many, I guess, public figures like streamers and YouTubers and so on, which sounds hypocritical because that's exactly what I am. But at the same time, I think we actually said at one point, a game's popularity in terms of people watching it and enjoying content made about it has a lot to do with people playing the game itself, and the majority of people who are interested in Overwatch can't actually play Overwatch at the moment. So they can consume all the videos, they can look at all the streams, they can watch the streams, watch the videos, all that kind of thing, but they can't actually experience the game themselves. And I'm kind of on the fence as to whether it was a good idea to have so much stuff made, like this far ahead of release, purely because there's going to be a lot of expectation built up. Some people might look at the videos and go, oh, this doesn't look as fun as I'd hoped. But actually, if they got to play it, it would be really fun. Other people might think this looks amazing and then play it and actually find, oh no, maybe it's just because these guys have played it so much longer than I have, and they appear to be better, and so it's a more enjoyable experience. It's a bit of a weird one the way they've handled it, but I can't complain too much because I've been really enjoying the game and I've been playing it constantly. Well, so it's like, yeah, it's a weird one to think about.
It's an interesting point, that is. I mean, if you look at Heroes of the Storm and the way they marketed that, it was the same sort of thing where it was like, oh look, Heroes of the Storm, people have initially got beta access, you can do what you like with the game, and then the wave started to get bigger and bigger and bigger, but the hype, you can call it hype. The hype dies out, and Overwatch, is it in danger of that? I mean, there's a tidal wave of media has been produced on this game, right? There's no two ways about that, is it? There's just been a massive tidal wave of streams and videos and everything. It started to slow down a little bit because the beta, it's, people have played the maps. Once people show off the maps and once people show off the heroes, most YouTubers and whatnot, unless they're really into the game, don't really go back and continue making content. So they need something new, something fresh to play. And obviously the game isn't balanced. There are issues with it and things like that. And obviously they're working on this, and no doubt they'll be fixed by the time the game launches. But it is, I think it's a legitimate worry to have, where this time next year, I think does it launch in autumn next year?
Yeah, it's autumn.
Yeah, so if it's going to launch then, there'll probably be another big buzz around BlizzCon, which they'll try and push the game quite a bit, and maybe try and ride into the launch through that. But we'll have to see what happens, because there's already been this... it just totally came out of left field, didn't it, Overwatch? It was like, here's Overwatch. Blizzard were making noises as if it was this slow-paced, fresh, like casual-friendly FPS game, where you play in a team, and it's almost like a WoW dungeon group, but it's an FPS variety, version of that, blah, blah, blah. When it's this game with such a high skill ceiling, and it's so complicated in terms of the way characters interact with each other. It's more similar to StarCraft 2 than it is to just some Care Bear game. It's like, whoa, that's a bit mad. So it took us by surprise, and it took a lot of people by surprise, but that's now gone. One of the most popular videos I've made on the game was exactly on that topic. It was Overwatch is not casual, which is pretty ridiculous, really, because everybody thought it would be, and it turns out it really isn't. And yeah, so anyway, let's talk about, I think I don't want to talk about every individual hero, and I don't want to talk about the stuff we did in the 100-hour review, but I want to talk about things which have changed, I guess, from our point of view, through the heroes that we've been playing quite a bit. And I guess, do you want me to start with McCree?
Yeah. Let's go into McCree, because he's an interesting one.
Yeah. So McCree, when I think he was nerfed, if we can even call it that. He was changed, let's say, when we made the previous video where we spoke about the heroes. But basically, McCree was a guy who was very good at long range, very good at every range. His pistol, which is a revolver, but it's very similar to the way the D-Eagle works in Counter-Strike, with the damage it does and the accuracy of that. So it was good at all ranges. He had a flashbang, which was very short range, and it would stun anyone who's near him, and then he could right-click, at which point he'd unload his entire clip and just kill everyone. Or kill anybody in front of him. He'd do like massive damage. It was insane. Any DPS class would die. I mean, pretty much only the main tanks could really take that kind of damage off him. And that was McCree. And his left shift was just like a little combat roll, which is kind of, it's okay, but it's like... Then they fixed him, or changed him, or nerfed him, depending on where you come from in this equation. And suddenly, McCree became really poor at long range. He is not very good at long range. He will get beat by the snipers, which is how it should be. I mean, are we in agreement there?
I think that's absolutely fair. Before that, he could take on pretty much anybody at any range, and it didn't really... Firstly, I don't think it fit the character that well. I mean, there's something about a gunslinger, like a Wild West cowboy, who is able to out-snipe someone armed with like poison mines and repel equipment and grappling hooks, that seems a little bit daft when they've got an actual legitimate full-on sniper rifle. And of course it did just have a severe gameplay impact, where it was like you could have a Widowmaker on your team, or a Hanzo, and they could get killed by McCree, who could also kill them.
Well, McCree was just better than them. Yeah, this is a problem which has been addressed quite a few times throughout the beta. So yeah, McCree was just better than those classes, and he was really good at close range and all of this stuff. So when they changed him, now his flashbang has got a slightly longer range, so you can throw it a little bit further than you used to be able to before, which actually is a really good change, because he has no range damage, really. You can shoot people at range, but it's just going to annoy them or alert them to your presence, at which point they'll turn around and start shooting you, which is probably not what you want if it's a Hanzo or a Widowmaker you're trying to shoot. But and apart from that, he's kind of unchanged. His close range damage is still really good, and his medium range damage is decent. But what I've been using him as is sort of this... he's like a mini Reaper, but he's a little bit more... he fits into my playstyle a bit better than Reaper does, because I don't like the fact Reaper's really short range, but obviously Reaper does a lot of damage at close range, but he doesn't have any ranged ability. McCree can still harass people at long range if he wants to, but he can put fairly decent damage out at medium range, so it's pretty good for... He's like a medium range brawler, I guess. But what I've been using him for a lot is... I would roll in, so I'd use his left shift, roll in, then E, because obviously when you roll, you're on the floor. Press your E, throw your flashbang, then right-click, and it is a guaranteed kill. I mean, we've just come off the back of playing Overwatch, because as I say, we've playing Overwatch quite a bit, and I completely dominated a Roadhog, which... Roadhog is... he's a wall of meat.
He really
and I was
is.
killing him over and over and over again. And it must have been quite frustrating to the guy. But again, it's Overwatch, so he should have changed his class instead of carrying on to bash his head against the wall. But it was really simple. I was running around the corner, I was flashbanging him, unloading my right click into him, full 6 shots going to him, and then I'd shoot him a couple of times and he'd die. Like, he couldn't do enough damage to me to kill me, but I could, like, wreck him. And McCree is now... It's only a minor change, so all they've done is reduced his range damage and increased the range on his flashbang, so he can throw it, like, maybe 2 meters instead of 1. But that's it. But it's made him... I wouldn't say he's bad now. I'd say he's okay.
Yeah.
Like, I'd be happy with how he is, because he shouldn't be out sniping snipers, and he should be strong in close range, and that's what he is.
So it's kind of interesting that you've said he fits better into your playstyle, because I have tried McCree a few times, but like before and after he was changed. I'm a much bigger fan of the Reaper style of brawling, of getting in there and getting really up in people's faces. And I think, I have to admit, part of that is down to the fact that you are a proper FPS player. Like, we played Counter-Strike together years ago, but you're always better than I was. You're a lot better at the Twitch aspect of FPS games. And you've kind of got an innate ability to just learn the game straight off, which I don't have. It takes me a long time to actually get used to the different mechanics and so on. Reaper's combination of being able to get in and get out, and being able to, I guess, hit people even when you're not specifically aiming directly at them, is a massive advantage for me, because my reflexes just aren't that good. But I can still do a lot of damage with Reaper. But I really like seeing a decent McCree. Like, I like coming up against McCrees who've got that kind of mid-range brawl thing
yeah,
going
no, I
on.
agree. McCree will kill Reaper.
Yeah.
Like, he just owns him, because Reaper comes around the corner, he flashbangs, and he's dead. A lot of McCree's stuff depends on the flashbang. If you've got the flashbang up, you're really powerful. Apart from if Genji comes around the corner, or if Diva comes around the corner with the interception, the projectile interception thing, which just gets rid of it. So there's only really 2 classes there. Obviously, Genji is a real problem for McCree, but everybody's got to have an anti-class, I guess, or somebody who's much stronger against them than other classes. I want to steal the next kind of major change, which this is an admission of me. I mean, you say I might have an innate ability to understand the game. I really didn't understand Hanzo, because I was using Hanzo, and in the last video we made on the 100-hour thing, I said Hanzo was terrible. There was no point playing Hanzo, because you may as well play Widowmaker. That's not actually true, because Hanzo is, while he is a sniper, he's not a long-range sniper. You can use him as that, don't get me wrong. You can fire the arrows in at whatever range you like. There is a little bit of drop-off, you have to compensate for that, and there's projectile travel time, so it's not a hit-scan weapon. And you've got to compensate for that, whereas obviously Widowmaker, you just click and it instantly hits the wherever you're aiming at, so it's much easier. And she's got a scope for a start. So how's he why do I think he's better? Well, what you do with him, you spam with him, right? You just keep firing and firing and firing and firing and firing. And I was laughing to you, wasn't I? Saying it's just like, it's just volume of fire with Hanzo. Just keep firing and you get a load of kills, which are just, you don't even expect to get a kill. It's like, oh, I've killed a guy, because I know they're over there somewhere, so I'm just going to fire my arrows over there, and you get a kill. His left shift, which is his kind of mini recon vision, which Widowmaker's got, so he fires an arrow and it sees through the walls wherever the arrow is, maybe a 10-meter radius all around. That's pretty strong. I mean, you can do cheap things with it, like fire it at the spawn at the start of the game to see what heroes they've selected. You can use it when you're dueling against people, or if you need to, see if someone's hiding behind a wall, or fire it onto a payload. Because eventually, when you learn the maps, you know where people are going to come from. So you can fire this thing, and then you can use this as this prediction tool, and then you can line up your shots, because Hanzo's arrow does a lot of damage. The big thing with Hanzo, though, and this is the thing that I completely did not understand at all, was his multi-arrow. I would fire this directly at people, thinking that's how you did damage with it. But you don't, because wherever the multi-arrow is, so you press E, he swaps his normal arrow out to the multi-arrow. Wherever it hits, it splits off into a load of other arrows. Now, if you fire this into the ground in front of anybody, they die. This is the single most super powerful thing he does, which makes him way better. Apart from, obviously, understanding that he's kind of this medium-range sniper class, and he's this volume sniper class. He's not the guy who's going to be lining up super headshots. He's the guy who's going to be firing his arrows off all over the place. But when you fire that multi-arrow and you fire it into the ground, you just, like, you can't be ganked because you kill everybody.
Yeah,
apart from maybe a Genji if he comes in with his thing up. Tracer jumps on you, you just turn around, fire it into the floor, she's dead. You kill tanks with it, you fire it into their feet, they're dead. It's so powerful.
It properly obliterates people, and it's one of those things as well where it's so quick. It's so quick that when you get killed by it, you're like, what the... Oh, okay, I understand. I've been killed quite a few times, like coming out of buildings and stuff, like coming out of a doorway. You'll see Hanzos that watch entranceways, and they've got the multi-arrow up, and as soon, like the second they spot you, it goes straight at your feet, and it's almost like a really good denial tool in some ways. I mean, it's denial by killing people, but if you find a Hanzo that is covering doorways, like covering entranceways to the area that he's protecting, if he's got his multi-arrow, you just don't get in, you just die. As soon as you come through, it's just, oh, well, okay, he's dead. On to the next one. It's frustrating to die to, but it's also a really powerful ability if you know what you're doing with it. And
well, yeah, I agree, because Hanzo, if he's firing his arrows into like, let's say you're on Hollywood and there's, where the first point is, there's like the archway as you move towards it. Well, there's like a door on the side, and if Hanzo's just chucking his arrows into there and getting ready with his multi-arrow in case he sees somebody come in that he doesn't hit, fires the arrow in, and there's a good chance it's going to do severe damage or even kill whoever's in there. But that's initially how when I looked at Hanzo, I was like, okay, his multi-arrow, it's good for firing into rooms, small rooms, but that's kind of it, because I didn't realise that what you do is fire it into the ground at people's feet, and it's made Hanzo much better. It means that in close quarter, because I would die a lot with Hanzo in close quarter duels. I'd just die, and I'd get really frustrated, because you're trying to hit people with an arrow that you have to draw back to fire, and it's just like, if a tracer's on you firing away, you just die, and it gets frustrating. It's like, fucking hell, I'm dead again. But all you need to do is press E, and then just quickly left click. You don't even have to pull the arrow back, because as soon as it hits the floor, it splits off into a shitload of arrows, and they just do massive damage anyway. Yeah. So if somebody's really close, you go boom, and like you said, it's really quick, and they instantly die. So those two guys were the two heroes for me, who had changed a lot through only, like, one changed through a minor change, a minor nerf, I guess we could call it, with his range damage, but also increasing the flashbang range. And the other one was just through playing the game and realising that, hang on a minute, this is how you play this guy, which is what I love this game for, because I went into it saying he's shit, don't play Hanzo, but now I'm like, actually, Hanzo's pretty good. It's like I went into it saying Genji was a ridiculous OP character when he came out, and then I was sort of like, well, actually, Genji ain't that bad, because you can kill him with quite a few classes, you can deal with him fairly easily, although we will get onto Genji in a bit, because I think we've seen recently is combinations of characters, which... this is the meta evolving, and this will be rapid. When people have got access to the game, like en masse, and it's publicly released, this kind of thing will be happening so fast. I guess we should go into it. You want to go into it?
Yeah. I have to admit, I still have a slight salt issue from the last game that we played, because I've been playing Lucio a lot recently, and I really like Lucio. I've not really enjoyed any of the other supports, to be honest. Mercy I find far too passive. I realise she's quite a strong character, and what she does is very valuable to the team, and she can provide constant healing or a damage buff. She's not that interesting to play. Same goes for Symmetra. I kind of feel like I'm not actually supporting people using Symmetra. Lucio, though, I'm really enjoying it.
Let's just jump onto Symmetra for a sec, because Symmetra is a weird one. She... I've seen people playing Symmetra trying to do things differently with her. Like, you'll see people putting the Symmetra turrets onto the payload as it's moving, but sort of behind the payload, so you can't straight up shoot them off. You see Symmetra's, this seems to be the standard tactic, would set up like a nest of turrets and hope that people kind of don't notice them as they're shooting them, and then run deeper into them and then die. And it's like, well... lesser players will do that, like lesser players in terms of you don't have the experience, like you might be like, oh god, what is that noise, I'm dying, what's killing me, oh shit. But if you know it's a Symmetra turret, you immediately back out of the room, because you know it can't fire through the wall or any of that shit. So she's powerful because of her ultimate, the teleporter, but I think she's the most boring to play, more boring than Mercy, and really I wouldn't even say Symmetra is a support. She gives you shield.
She doesn't.
That's it.
She really doesn't strike me as support in the same way the others do. I almost feel like she's more of a more defense than anything else. I guess is the
What if? Well, hey, you know what? Actually, there were interesting comments on a video I made on May when she first came out, and I said she's a support tank or something. I call her, and people will comment on that video, going, "Oh no, she's defense. What are you talking about? She's a defense class." And I'm thinking, no, but what I mean is just because somebody's banded into defense or whatever class the game says, it doesn't mean like May can take a lot of damage, and she can support the team by blocking the enemy and also putting up the walls in front of your team to prevent damage hitting your team, freezing people with her ultimate. It's a massive crowd control. So they do overlap. It isn't just set in stone. It isn't like, oh, okay. But Symmetra is a weird one. I think I'm probably going to go out on a limb here and say she is like the third worst character behind Bastion and Torbjorn currently, because she's not like just to play. But she's really, really strong when she uses her teleporter, because we both played loads of games where you lose because Symmetra is just reinforcing the front line as quick as you're spawning. And that's powerful. But for the Symmetra player, it's like...
Yeah, in a way, that's part of the problem I've got with her, in that the teleporter is quite strong, but she doesn't really feel very strong to play. Like, she doesn't feel that interesting to play, and it kind of feels like you're just building up to that. Like, that is the purpose of Symmetra, which,
totally
in a way, it's true. It's, Symmetra is the teleporter is absolutely
but why
the
play this
strongest
class?
thing.
If Blizzard want a game where you've got all the classes are enjoyable to play, she just isn't.
Yeah.
This is where Mercy, like you said, Mercy's boring, and kind of. Mercy's different. Mercy's totally. She doesn't pay attention to the enemy team. So to her game is just flying around using a left shift, diving onto people and trying to emergency save them with a heal, which is the best in the game when it's on you, or giving you a damage buff. And she's very fragile herself. So she can be quite involving to play when you get used to her, where she's like, you have to sort of be on the front line.
Yeah.
Because you've got to be fairly close to whoever you're healing, but you know you could die. So there is a risk versus reward there, whereas somebody like Symmetra, it's just, there isn't.
Yeah,
it's like Lucio. It's the same. Like, Lucio's... But the difference with Lucio is you're so mobile that you're very hard to get shot. And you're fairly sturdy anyway, as Lucio.
And you can do a decent amount of damage yourself as well. Which is,
I
think that's part of the problem. I think it's I tried Lucio and I found him really interesting. And then I tried Mercy, and it felt to me
They're just like polar opposites. It's like, oh god, what the hell is this?
Yeah, and I kind of felt that when I'm playing Lucio, I'm constantly looking at my team. I'm looking for the critical signs. I'm looking at the health bars. I'm trying to work out where people are, who needs support, when they're who needs it when. What is the best time to use the ult? We need to get everyone together. Oh, I need to be over there because they need support, so on and so forth. But at the same time, I'm looking for enemies to shoot. I'm looking for ways in. I'm looking for people that I can, either harass out of the way or just outright kill. Because you can pull off some really good moves with Lucio. If you get the jump on someone, you can kill them. And I really like that aspect of it. When I tried Mercy afterwards, I felt like it was just, okay, I need to find out who needs healing. And that felt like it was still, don't get me wrong, it was still involved, but it wasn't as interesting to me. Like, it just wasn't as much fun. And at the end of it, it was like, that was not as much, that just wasn't as fun as playing Lucio. And I feel like
no, I don't agree with this. That is just the mentality of DPS tank healer from an MMO. Whereas it's fun to go around shooting people. It can be fun to heal people, and it kind of is fairly similar. With Mercy, you do get a very strong feeling of, I've just saved that person. Because you have. Like, if you just jumped in and healed somebody who's about to die, well, let me just make my point. You get the thing of, that's the Mercy kill. It's like, yeah, I've saved them, and now I've damage buffed them or whatever. Lucio has just got a pitiful heal over time, which is constantly going off, which he can boost, which actually becomes fairly good then.
Yeah, so...
And he can do more damage as a result, so he's more interesting to play from my perspective, yeah. But
yeah, that's what I mean. It's you can still
levels of interest.
They do, but
it's different though. It's like you can't go from Lucio to Mercy because they're totally different. But they still have. What my argument is, they still have an impact. You can still have a moment with them, like, yes, I've done that, I've done this. Whereas Symmetra, you just like, I put down my teleporter. GG.
I don't agree with that, because I just feel I feel like I'm making exactly the same impact with Lucio as I do with Mercy. If you play him properly, and if you play Mercy, they both have an impact. But for me personally, it's like I'm flying around as Mercy, I'm healing people, I'm boosting damage, great. But then I don't feel like I'm doing anything else. Whereas with Lucio, I feel like I'm doing exactly the same thing, but I can also wreck people if I need to. I can also push people away from points. I can take them out of range. I can harass them out of the way. And I can't do that with Mercy. And yet I can still go up to someone. I can still outright save people with that class.
I think, right, Lucio's better for public games, and Mercy's better if you've got a team. For you, I would say. Because Lucio, you can just faff around, and you know you're still healing people. With Mercy, if you go forward with, let's say, a Roadhog, because you're going to, like, I don't know, push a payload, but then that Roadhog does something a bit weird, like, I don't know, turns around and starts running away, and you'll think to yourself, go forward, you know, I'm healing you, or I'll give you the damage buff or something. Then it's like, the impact, it gets frustrating to play, because you need your team to be cohesive and work together, whereas Lucio is more like, you know you're still doing, you know you're still giving, like if you were around in that situation with the example I just gave there, Lucio is still applying his heal anyway, and you were not really going to do much more in that situation. But with Mercy, she needs you to go forward and take advantage of what she's doing for you. It's kind of like when Lucio drops the beat and uses ultimate. Everybody knows when as soon as that happens, if you watch the team, they just go forward. They're like, yeah, they know. It's like, shit, we've got a massive shield. It's like a 500-point shield, isn't it?
Yeah, it decays, but it's a 500-point shield.
Well, yeah, but it's still a 500-point shield, yeah. So everyone goes forward with that. And it's great because that will win the game at the end where you need to dive onto a point. It will save the game where you need to dive onto a point. Mercy with a res, which actually Blizzard have said they're going to change. It's fairly similar, but it's much harder to do. Because you know it's coming. You know what I'm saying? Like, you might have killed the team, and then when she casts it, you hear that, this might sting. And then you see people standing there, gold, and you're like, okay, let's go, let's get ready. They might still beat you because they come back with full health and whatever, but I think with Lucio, when he drops the beat, you can, it's powerful for that. I think he's the best support class in my eyes. I mean, Zenyatta's pretty good. But just talking about combinations anyway, of heroes. The original, the first one was Pharah and Mercy. This was the first one to develop, wasn't it? Where it makes sense because Mercy can fly, can't she? Well, she can float, but she can fly towards a target, and then if you hold spacebar down, she'll just gently float to the ground. Pharah can fly, so Pharah jumps up into the air and Mercy jumps towards her. Mercy can then apply her damage buff to her in mid-air, and Pharah can just fire her rockets down, doing massive damage to people. And that was really powerful, wasn't it? And we played loads of games where we'd lose, and it was like, shit. But then what happened to that?
It's weird how that disappeared. It was
because yeah, but why did it disappear though?
Well, you can take it out quite easily. It became so.
Yeah, but people didn't realise that, did they? To begin with, it was like, oh god.
It was weird seeing almost like the rise and fall of that, because we started to see it a lot, and then it was a case of people just said, well, if we shoot them down, shoot either one of them down. It doesn't really matter which. Then it's not a problem anymore. And it's almost like that realisation spread out, and it was like the rise of it was over a week, and then the fall of it was over a couple of days, and I just haven't seen it for ages now. I don't know how long it's been since I've seen that combination in a game, which is kind of strange because it was quite strong. And in fact, it probably is still quite strong, but I think it depends on where you are in terms of playing the game.
Yeah, it's definitely something which is a good combination. It's not something you could just do the entire game, which is what was happening initially. Because what happened is people realised, oh, Overwatch is a game about changing the class, so you would just be like, oh, I'll just change to somebody who can instantly kill her. Oh, a Widowmaker, goodbye, Pharah. Yeah. Or I shoot you with a Hanzo, or even a McCree if you're close enough, or even a Roadhog will just pull you out of the sky and gun you down. So people, well, maybe the tank's like, I'll play Winston and just drop my shield down. Where's your damage going now? Oh, nowhere. So it can easily be countered. But Mr. Kirioth, I will allow you to explain a more recent one, which is absolutely disgusting.
It's absolutely horrendous.
While we've moaned about other stuff, we're going to probably moan about this again until we find out a way of beating it.
So this is the combination of Genji and Zenyatta. Now, Zenyatta, however you want to pronounce it, he has got two different abilities, and one of them is a heal, one of them is called a Discord Orb. So he sends one of his orbs to an ally, and it just constantly heals them. It's not a huge heal, it's not Mercy powerful. I think it's somewhere between Lucio and Mercy, isn't it, in terms of how much you get per second?
I don't actually know the stats of it, but yeah, it's still a pretty good heal. Like, it's not crap. I mean, you can only heal one person at a time with it.
And he's got the Discord Orb, which makes you take more damage if he puts it on you. Now, as you probably already know, we feel that Genji is quite the manoeuvrable chap. He does quite a lot of damage at most.
Genji got nerfed. Actually, Genji did get nerfed. Genji had a bleed effect on his dash, but they took that off. So he doesn't apply that anymore.
It's
which we called for that.
Yeah,
But
it
anyway,
still
carry on.
feels,
Explain
it still feels
the whole
mad,
show.
Yeah, so what you've got is you've got a Genji with his ultra maneuverability, because he is still incredibly maneuverable, with a constant heal on him all the time. So he's dashing in, he's killing you, you do some damage, like you've laid into him, but then by the time he gets to the next person, he's recovered his health again. And it's like, the constant sustain means that Genji can just run around your back line, jumping in and out of combat, without ever having to stop. He just goes from, might kill 1 or 2 people in a row, then he disappears. But then he comes back, 5 seconds later, oh, he's got full health again. It's an absolute nightmare. It is really strong so far, from what I've seen.
It's very strong. I mean, okay, so we've been playing in a very closed environment with players, and there are some good players and there are some not so good players. But once somebody understands how to play Genji and then gets Zenyatta to put the orb onto them, you would initially think, okay, Zenyatta, you should be healing your tanks, your Reinhardts, or whatever, which would be the traditional way of thinking, to keep them in the game, blah, blah, blah. Zenyatta's really weak. If you get Zenyatta, you'll kill him, unless he gets lucky and hits you with his charged up attack. But if he puts his healing ability onto a very maneuverable class like Genji. Now, Genji is by far the best character to put this on. I mean, Tracer would be okay, but Genji can reflect your attacks back at you, so he's really durable anyway. I mean, what tends to happen is if Genji jumps on you, even if he doesn't have the orb, let's say I'm McCree. Genji comes around the corner to get me. I'll know it's Genji, so I won't use my flashbang straight away. I'll just start shooting at him, hoping that he presses his E, and when he does that, he goes like that, and he pulls the sword up above his face. I know he's got his thing up now. I know he can't attack me, so I just wait. I'd press E, then I'd kill him, because E would stun him and kill him. If I threw my E straight at him immediately, he would knock it back in my face if he had his thing up and kill me. So there is kind of like, you get used to the way Genji operates and you know what he's going to do. But McCree's really the only guy who can kind of deal with him in that respect. If Genji jumps onto you, if you're pretty much anyone else apart from a tank, or apart from a Reinhardt or somebody, he's going to give you some grief, and it's going to be annoying, and he might kill you. I'd say the odds are probably in his favour most of the time. I mean, somebody like a Mei would kill him because he can't reflect his her projectile back. Well, he can't reflect her left click. Same for Xayah. He can't deflect her. Basically, any energy weapons, he can't deflect, like Winston would kill him and things like that. But every other class does have a problem with him. So this combination of putting the heal onto him from Zenyatta, and this guy would just jump into the back, and we've seen it a few times, straight into the back of your team because he's ultra mobile, would run around attacking you, and you're attacking him back. But he's got double the sustain because now he's healing himself. And also he's reflecting the shots, and he's really mobile. So if he does jump out to somewhere where he doesn't want to be, he can turn around and leg it, and then attack you from somewhere else. And you've got this constant threat in your back line. And I think, hands down, it is the most effective combination I've seen in the game by far at the moment. And it's something like, oh god, like this will happen when the game comes out, or when the beta comes back. It'll just be like, if there is a Genji and a Zenyatta on the other team, that Zenyatta is almost 100% going to give the healing orb to the Genji, and the Genji's going to dive into your backline, and you need to deal with the Genji. You need to do something to stop him. If you don't, then you're going to lose, because if you, as we've started to find out, as players get more experienced, if you, like, let's take Hanamura for example on the first point. If you take if two members of your team die on defense, you've lost the point, and the other team have still got players. Even if you lose one player, a lot of the times it's still hard.
But this is the thing, you've got
so it can change the game really quick. Like, you can just come in, kill 2 of you guys at the back, and you're like, holy shit, and then you've got to. So you need to identify it before it happens. That's what I'm saying, and it's sort of like it's hard to do that. If he
sticks around,
because you don't know what the enemy team is.
If he sticks around and starts going ultra mobile and coming back and killing you again and again, you've got to deal with him as a team. But of course, if your team is focused on killing Genji, then you are ignoring the rest of the enemy team, and that's, I think, in a way, that might be one of the things that is most difficult to deal with in terms of Genji at the moment. He is very maneuverable. He very rarely attacks you head on. And if he does, he'll be reflecting your shots as he does so. He's all about the flank. Actually, I say that, I have had a couple of times where he has approached head on, but he's used his dash to get past me. So he's approached head on, but then he's behind me because he's dashed through, which, that's just part of his ability kit. But it's this thing of, you see, at the moment, you see Genji, and it's a case of, oh god, we need to deal with Genji, because he will take you all out. the range he's got is pretty damn good. You know, the maneuverability is really good. He can get in, he can get out, he can deflect your damage, he can kill just so quickly. In the time that you're messing about trying to kill Genji, you don't know what the rest of the team are doing. They could be like walking right up behind you, and you're too distracted with, oh, we need to get rid of this guy. There's got to be more ways to deal with him than we currently know about. I find it very difficult to believe that he's so powerful that there's only like a couple of heroes that can really deal with him without being taken out. But I just don't know what they are yet, and it's.
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? We don't know what they are yet. Blizzard did slightly nerf him as they removed his bleed effect on the charge, but you don't like. It's hard sometimes to see like how classes can be countered.
Yeah.
Without actually seeing high-level games being played, or seeing like more people having access to the game, and because Blizzard have obviously put loads of time into the game, so they're most likely sitting there monitoring how long it takes players to work out what are good combinations, what are very strong tactics, what are ways of doing this, and how should you be playing that. I mean, a very simple example of this is how we know that Torbjorn and Bastion are very ineffective beyond the very new players of the game, because you just suddenly realise, well, there's so many classes that negate them. It's almost funny when you see a Torbjorn. It's like, oh, I mean, like, we would laugh with each other, wouldn't we? And go, oh Christ, that guy's playing Bastion on our team.
Well, we're
not dickheads.
We had that.
Well, we're not dickheads. We don't sit there and we like go into the team chat and whatever and go, oh my God, change your class. We don't. We just let people play whatever they want to play. But you do get people who play Bastion, and you think, you got to scratch your head and think, yeah, but you don't really want to play him. I mean, they might be trying to test something out. Who knows? But
and especially in the age of Genji, playing Bastion is even
stupid,
even more kind of. It seems harsh to say pointless, but we had a game not that long ago where we had a Bastion. There was admittedly a very good Genji on the other team, and Bastion died immediately and didn't change, and then died immediately again because Genji just counters Bastion. He just completely hard counters him. There's nothing that a Bastion can really do to deal with Genji. So when Genji comes for you and just ruins you twice in a row, you've got to change. If you don't change, then you lose the game. And funnily enough, that's exactly what happened.
Well, I'd say immediately. I think let's talk about that. Let's talk about how dynamic the game is, and with changing your heroes and whatnot. You really can't. If you know, like, you need to play the game quite a lot to understand if you've been hard countered. Which is, it's not like, oh, I've just died and that guy's killed me. Oh, that's bullshit. I need to change my class. It's, I've died because that class has beat me, and it's hard to know when that is the case. I mean, I would say an example of this would be if you are, let's say you're against a Roadhog, and you are a Pharah, right? And Roadhog has taken you out. Maybe it's lucky. Maybe he got you with his hook, right? And because he can't get you at your maximum jump range when you've got your booster, but he can get you from pretty high in the sky. And it's like, okay, maybe it was luck. But then if he kills you again with the hook, right? You then got to start thinking to yourself, okay, I'm getting countered here on two fronts. I'm getting countered by the class, and I'm getting countered by the player, because that player knows what to do with that class. So you need to change your class. I mean, that's maybe not the best example. Obviously, the very easy one is just the bloody Bastion one, isn't it? It's like, oh, you're playing Bastion, you've been countered by Tracer, then change Bastion, please, because that Tracer will do it again. And one of the biggest issues with the game, and with keeping your team effective, is you need your players alive. You can't die, because unless you've got a Symmetra who's going to bring you back to the front line immediately, you've got to run back, and that's where you lose the game. The game is not... You have to have your team in place all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I've watched some esports, if you can even call it that, for Overwatch. Some like little tournaments that have been run with some of the esports players that are in the beta and stuff. And you watch them, and there's a slightly worrying trend of they just brawl with each other. Like, it looks like a mess. And then when there's 10 seconds to go on the payload, all they've done is saved up like their Lucio ulti, their McCree ulti, their Pharah ulti, and they just use them all at the same time at the very end, just to push forward to the next checkpoint, and then they sort of do it again. And the game, again, by watching it at a high level, you see different stuff than watching, when me and you play. I don't want it to just turn into a thing where it's everyone saves their ultimate and you just use your ultimate and win, because then there'll just be combinations that you'd always want to take. But I would say you'd always want a Lucio for that shield, because it's so powerful. And then you'd always want other characters for the abilities they can do, like Pharah with the shield on, using her ulti. She's just going to clear out a clump of players. So that was slightly worrying to me, seeing that kind of thing develop, because I mean, I think the game is designed for that in a way, because you get these you get awesome moments, don't you, where it's like, fuck, we've just won the game, I've just won the game, there's 10 seconds to go, oh my god, I can't believe it. But then if you be an arsehole to yourself and look back, I mean, I put a video on the channel of Soldier 76 where I killed a lot of people at the end of the game to prevent them actually winning the game with the payload on King's Row. But all I did was press Q and left click. But the game makes you feel like you're amazing.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, oh my god, I've just... But I think maybe a byproduct of that is this thing of, well, we're just going to save our ultis because we know when we use them all together it's going to be really powerful, and then we're just going to win the game, especially with these payload kind of push missions, because I don't think there are any... Like, Bastion would kill an entire team. Bastion would kill you if you had your Lucio shield on and other crap going down, if he was just firing at you, because he does massive damage.
Yeah.
But nobody's going to play a Bastion at that point because he would get killed too easy. So there seems to me there isn't really any kind of counter. But then again, you can get crazy stuff like Zyra. She can use... I mean, it's almost like an ulti war. This is like what's playing out in my head, where it's this thing of like, yes, they're coming in with their shields and whatever. Well, Zyra can just black hole them. So that nullifies their push. It's like Lucio nullifies Zyra's ultimate when she uses it, and then Lucio drops the beat, and then you don't really take any damage while you're in it, and everybody's attacking you because you've got a massive shield.
Yeah, it would be, I guess, a bit crap if it did end up that it was just a case of everyone save your ult, then we use them all at the same time. But the thing is, if the other team are doing the same thing, you're going to be stuck in just the same tug of war you've been playing anyway. If what you're doing is brawling and then we've got 10 seconds left, everyone ult. Well, if the other team, everyone ults at the same time as well, then it's just going to be a massive mess, and probably everyone's going to die. And all the different ults will counter each other, like, with like Zarya and Lucio. There's counters there, and there's so many different combinations. I think it could be bad, but at the same time, it could also turn out to not be too bad, because it won't actually mean a difference to the way the game's being played, because it won't take that long. I mean, the game changes so quickly and the combinations change so quickly that if you see a team and they've decided to pick a certain combination, you know that their ults working together are going to be really good. So you go, okay, well, what would completely counter that combination? Okay, we'll do that. And then you switch. And when they do save their ult up, you can just counter it with yours. Your team, I mean, at high-level play, your team will be coordinated the same as theirs, so... I don't know, it could be...
But then doesn't this have an issue of the pacing of the game, where the game starts off and you've got this like little brawl going on, and everyone's saving their ultis. Maybe the odd player pops their ulti every now and again just to try and make things happen. And then you've got other teams coming back, and they can only really make a play when they've got a certain number of ultis up, because you can't... Like, Overwatch isn't really a game where you can just run around the corner and immediately kill 3 people instantly. It's not Counter-Strike. It's a game where you can sort of size up the other team, can't you? You can go in and go out. Okay, you could get headshotted and whatever, but it's not everybody's going to do that, are they? You see a Roadhog, he's not going to just kill you from range, is he? But he's there, and it's like, okay, I can take a few shots at him and whatever. So maybe, I don't know, it might be an issue with pacing as the game goes forward, where you're just going to have these sort of lukewarm engagements. And even when, if somebody gets like a multi-kill at that point, it doesn't really mean much. It just means that you kind of push the payload a little bit further, because they'll be back anyway. I mean, at the end of the game, very impressive, yeah. But at that time, people seem to be...
The thing is, I think
reliant on their ultis, maybe.
If everyone goes the same route of we're just gonna feel it out, we're just gonna have a little fight, just a little brawl, just go in a bit. Oh no, we need to back out. It won't be long before someone decides, well, actually, if what we're doing is testing each other and pushing forward a little bit and then getting pushed back, if we get this combination of 2 or 3 characters together, we can steamroll a few of them and make some progress. And I don't think there's going to be that much of an issue with the pacing of the game, because I think as soon as someone finds a strategy, or a couple of teams find a way of kind of keeping the other team at bay without really, getting any losses, or without making too many kills, just kind of a stalling strategy or anything like that, there's going to be a way round it, because every character can be countered by some other character. And I'd kind of hope that is the route that people are going, instead of just the constant kind of half-hearted brawl. Instead, it would be a case of, right, switch out, we're going to push. And that would, that would push the game on along a bit more. I suppose it depends on whether people think that's worth doing when you could, push the payload a little bit and then stop, and then a little bit and then stop, as opposed to making a massive push and getting it halfway there, and then having a fight, and then, doing the same thing again.
I mean, the game... I don't like the ultimates. I like them, and I also like the way the game is obviously designed to. I mean, I think what we're looking at is a situation of you are. I'm going to say the esports players or the top tier players are going to be of a very similar skill. It's not going to be like this guy is so much better than another guy. It's unbelievable. It's going to be a case of timing and team timing. It's got more focus on how a team functions together, much like a MOBA in some respects. I know in MOBAs some of them you can get players that do win games. I mean, I know everyone goes on about that faker guy like God knows what on bloody League of Legends, but obviously there will be like exceptional players. But I think with Overwatch you might have an exceptional player on one hero, but it is almost countered by the fact that a really, really, really good player is playing a hero which counters that hero.
Yeah.
And so you can... They sort of cancel each other out, kind of, and then you end up with these like, I mean, some issues I've seen people talking about with the game is the feel of the game, like the feel of being powerful, of like attacking somebody and feeling that you're doing like tangible damage to them, but actually they just instantly heal, or something happens which means they're invulnerable to damage, or then they push forward and you feel like, oh God, what I've done here was a waste of time, and that kind of shit. I think it's very team focused, and I think we're at the point now with the beta, which I'm hoping it opens up to more people, which I'm pretty sure it will when it comes back in January.
Yeah.
Where we've got players who are good, we're good, but we can't get any better unless everybody uses the voice comms, and not everybody wants to use it at this point for whatever reason. The best games I've had on Overwatch have been when the team... I mean, I was playing with, like, there was a couple of Australian guys and a French guy, and it was really good. I mean, the Australian guys probably had a horrific ping from Australia to the EU servers, but it was a really good game because everybody's like, Genji's behind us to the left. As soon as you know that, this OP Genji, even if he's got the Zenyatta heal on him, which kind of makes him even more OP, if you want to even say he's OP, you know he's behind you, so you turn around and it's like, right, I'm going to deal with him. Or, so-and-so's over to the right. Farah is above us. D.Va's just used their ultimate. Those little bits of information suddenly make it...
make it a better game.
Way more... They do, and it's like... It's very much like a MOBA in that kind of way. You know when people would ping the map in a MOBA? You've just seen somebody come out the jungle in LoL or something. They ping the map. You look at the minimap, oh yeah, I've just caught him. You know that the jungler's over there, so you can do something more in your area. It's exactly the same, and it is... the game is... It's an FPS arena shooter that is influenced by MOBAs, which also is very reliant on team play. And this could be a thing which can be quite frustrating, because I'm not going to lie, Mr. Kirioth, I've been frustrated by people doing strange things, and I'm like, I'm getting angry. I'm also getting quite salty to myself, obviously, not in public chat or anything. I'm like, fucking hell, what are you doing that for? When I'm thinking, you shouldn't be playing that class, or you should be doing this, you should be doing that. But how long is it going to take before this spills over? I'll let you talk in a sec, because I want to fucking roll it. Because this happened in the beta weekend. When I made the video saying it was a stressful weekend, people were coming in, and they were immediately going, why are you playing this character? Change that character. We don't need 2 tanks. 2 tanks is actually quite strong. It depends what they are as well.
Yeah.
Because I think people, again, they were new to the game. They're probably thinking, oh, God, a Reinhardt and a Winston. This is the worst thing ever. Reinhardt does massive damage with his hammer. If he hits you with a hammer, you're screwed, ain't you? And if he pins you up the wall, you're basically dead if it goes off. Winston, again, it's really powerful at close range. And people not understanding the game, but wanting to vocalise their sort of misguided behaviour on the team, and that is why I stopped playing MOBAs, because I could not handle people spamming the chat saying, oh God, change class, this guy at the bottom is really terrible. You know, like the first time somebody dies in LoL, the guy would just get abused, wouldn't he? Oh, for fuck's sake, what have you died for? And then it just spirals into hate. Do you think that's going to happen with Overwatch? Well, it already has happened with Overwatch. What do you think is going to happen in the future? This is a good debate. What do you think is going to happen in the future with Overwatch?
Well, to be honest, I think
with its community.
I think it will start out like that, but I think as the game grows and people get more used to it and get to high level play, I think there'll be more. I'd hope there'd be a bit more maturity about it, but also, I have to admit, I could more see myself playing in a big group than playing just random.
Yeah, I want to play. I don't. I want to play in a team.
I don't think I want to.
It's been a long time since I've wanted that,
yeah,
but I do.
Yeah, and once once you're at that point, I don't think it matters so much. I honestly think that in any sort of multiplayer game where you're on the same team, there's going to be some element of that. It is particularly bad with MOBAs, but I don't know if Overwatch will be able to hold the hold the attention of, but will have the same appeal to that type of player. So I don't know. It could be quite bad.
Do you think the league system will sort this out then? Because surely there'll be a league system like StarCraft 2, where you'll be a bronze level player and there'll be a silver level player or whatever. If that's the case, then I'd imagine as you go up the leagues, you could maybe say it would get less. But then again, as you go up the leagues, there's more pressure to perform and people want to win more. This is why I like StarCraft 2 as a multiplayer game in that respect, because if you lost, it was only ever your fault. Unless you were playing 2v2 or even Archon mode for some reason. But 1v1, it's pure 1v1, isn't it? This game isn't. And MOBAs are not. And if somebody is at a high level and they want to win, and you, for whatever reason, make a bad play or do something and the team's on your back, it's just an unavoidable thing which happens in these team-based games. It happens in sport. I used to play football, and if somebody fucked up, you'd let them know. The whole team would let them know. Somebody gives a penalty away, you're like, what the fuck? You know what I mean? You've just been working hard for an hour, and then some cabbage on your team just legs somebody up in the box and there's a penalty. It's like, well, what are you fucking doing, mate? It's just a part of sport, isn't it?
Yeah.
But the problem with the internet, it's anonymous, so people are more toxic. Or maybe you perceive them as being more toxic. I don't know.
I don't know. I think there's a risk of it, but I think also the fact that there's an entry price, I think will discourage that behaviour, because if you pay for the game and there's a risk of getting banned for being a complete arsehole, then it might make it so that people aren't that abusive because they've got something to lose. I think as well, it'll probably be worse in the beta, or the betas, than it will when the game launches, for precisely that reason, because if you get in at the moment, you can just get in because you've been flagged to get in, whereas there'll come a point where there's no flag, there's just you've had to pay money. So I don't know, that might go some way to combating it.
That's actually an interesting point, because I mean the MOBAs are free to play, aren't they? And actually, for the final topic, let's kind of stay on what we were just discussing. I mean, when we used to play League of Legends, we used to play in a team, didn't we? And I say a team, we just used to play with a bunch of people, but we never really used to play ranked, did we? We just play like normal games.
Yeah.
And that was fine for us, because there was no pressure. It was funny, everyone could do their own thing, and that was fine. As soon as you come out of that environment and start, because there was a period where I tried to play solo queue, which is obviously madness, and duo queue. I felt I was better than the people I was playing with, which is probably totally the wrong attitude to have. And I would get really frustrated when you see a guy do something which was so stupid. You're like, what is that guy doing that for? Oh my god, he's just caused a right problem, and there's not really anything we can do about it, because if somebody falls behind in those games, then there's a problem, isn't it, with the whole team? It's not as effective.
Yeah.
That type of thing with Overwatch, like, my fear is I would like to just drop into games of Overwatch, but I'm starting to believe that I just don't think that's going to be the case. Like, there isn't going to be, they'll probably have unranked games, so yeah, sure, you'll be able to do it, but in terms of like your ranking or whatever, you won't be able to come in and have like a casual game of Overwatch, because there'll be too much pressure to actually perform.
So I don't think that's... I'd say that there's still a possibility for just having a casual game of Overwatch. I think the game itself
in normal, but not in ranked mode. I wouldn't want you on my team if you were just turning up for a casual game of Overwatch. After 5 pints or something, yeah, let's play ranked. I'd be like, what? No,
yeah, but you wouldn't do that. You wouldn't do that for ranked anyway, would you? I've never sat there and gone.
Other people might.
Well, that's where the team thing comes in. Then it's like
yeah. This is where you get angry. You know what I'm saying? Like, then you'd be like, oh, for fuck's sake! Like, you're not always going to have your 5-man team, are you, to play with? This is
But
what I'm
then
saying.
if that's-
You might want to go off for a game yourself, and maybe it's like...
But then if that's a problem that has happened in MOBAs and there's a risk of happening in Overwatch, then I think that's just always going to be a problem, no matter what game it is. Any multiplayer game that has any sort of ranked system, there's going to be an element of, I want to take this serious. I don't want to faff around. And even if someone is not intentionally faffing around, they might just be having a bad day. There might be something going on. If they mess it up, you're going to feel like you've been robbed of something. But I don't think that's something that is ever going to be different for Overwatch, because I think it's just going to apply to every single game. I don't think there's a way around it. Because without you being in a team, then you by yourself, you've got no way of knowing what everyone else is doing, why they're doing it, what state they're in. I think it's either just a risk you have to take, and it's just part of any game that has that ranked experience.
You know what, actually, there is an argument for stepping up and being counted as well. Like I said earlier on, when teams are calling out, oh god, Genji's here, Bastion's set up over there, or whatever, or they've got a Roadhog, who knows what, that helps a shitload. And it kind of, you have to take the initiative. I mean, me and you, we play in TeamSpeak, so we're always talking to each other when we're playing the game anyway. Yeah. So we say things like that to each other, don't we? Like, oh god, Genji's behind us, and you'll turn around and kill him. I mean, I think I was Farah, and he killed me, and I'm shouting to you, oh, he's behind me, you turn around and just like one-shot him because he was ruined. It's like, that is the sort of level of communication. But really, we're probably guilty of that when we should have been saying that in team chat, because the rest of the team didn't know he was there.
Yeah, true.
And if we're already talking, we should be changing the way we play. Because, I mean, let's be honest, the VoIP system's really good in the game anyway.
Yeah, it is.
So maybe that's the thing, actually. I'm going to make a conscious effort to just provide information to the team over VoIP. Not be a dick, not talk to people or shout, oh my god, he's killed me again, I can't believe it. None of that shit. Just giving information to people. Because that little nugget of information on the position of somebody, or something that's just happened, or my ulti's ready, or I'm about to use my ulti, it's invaluable in this game.
Yeah, it is. And I think it would be a lot. I think it's also a lot easier if you restrict yourself to what you're going to say. Might also take care of things like going in solo and having people mess around, because if you're going in solo and you're in ranked, you just want to play the game by yourself, that's what you want to do. If you're providing information, people might not act on it, but at the end of the day, they might have messed it up. They might have ignored you, or they might not have heard you or something. They might have VoIP turned off, whatever.
I don't agree with that. When would you not act on information? If some guy just said to you, Genji's behind us, you would know he's behind you then. You'd be like, oh, he's behind us. You wouldn't just ignore it.
Yeah, I would, but...
Well, yeah, and I'd like to think most people would as well.
But there's always...
But there's some guys sitting there like, fuck
but
you,
there's always people who, like... you know from League of Legends, you'll ping the jungle down bot, because you know full well the jungler is about to come out, and they're about to get ganked under the tower, and then they just stand there and they wait for it. There's always going to be people who ignore the information. If you're restricting yourself to, this is where this guy is, this guy's come out of here, look out for that guy, he's coming out of this building. If people don't act on it, then at the end of the day, all you can do is go, well, they could have done better, and either stop playing or accept that that's going to happen and move on. Because I don't think there's any way around it. There's just no way around it. It's either going 5-man
when you do die. Yeah, well, when they do die, like if somebody does die, if you're like on Hollywood and you say Hanzo's on top of jail, and then some guy gets shot because he was faffing around in the open by the jail, it's like, well, okay, I told you he was there, but you died. But that guy will be back in 20 seconds and carry on with the game.
Yeah.
It's only really going to massively piss you off at the very end. Because, I mean, that's when I get pissed, when I'm like, oh, shit. I mean, me and you were the same. We would both be screaming down the mic like, oh, crap, no. Obviously, just to each other.
Yeah.
When we're just about to use an ultimate, or we're just about to do something, and the game ends, or you get pushed back off the point, or something stupid happens, which results in you not being able to contest a point, contest a payload, or force the overtime to carry on. And that is like, oh, shit. But all the lead up to that, you can kind of be a bit lenient.
Yeah.
Because provided you still make that play at the end, it's like, it's okay. It's when that goes to shit where... I mean, I've seen it in the chat as well on the game, where people would just be like, oh, can't believe it at the end of the game. Like, wow, that was terrible, you'll see. And I'm thinking, that was a really good game, but we just lost at the very end.
Yeah.
It wasn't terrible. But it's because they feel so robbed.
Yeah.
It's like, I've just lost. How can that be? Well, it's Overwatch.
I think...
Any final words then, Mr.
I do think that, all of that being said, I don't think there's going to be that much of a problem. There isn't going to be as much, like, I don't think there's going to be as much rage or anger purely because of the price point. I really do. If you get
I think that's
if you get banned from
totally
LoL for being abusive,
well.
if you get banned from like Heroes of the Storm for being abusive, whatever, get another Battle.net account, get another Riot account, just even Steam, just get another Steam account. You might not be able to play Dota on your main account, but you can sign up for a free one anyway. Buy a £2 game and then you're back in Dota, and you can be as much of an arsehole as you like with an actual cost. And it's like, well, congratulations, you're now banned on that Battle.net account. If you want to do it again, you've got to sign up for a new one, and you've got to pay 15, 20 quid, however much it is, because I can't remember off the top of my head. You've got to pay that again to get into the game. And if you've got that much of an issue with other people playing the game with you, and you think that they're so terrible but you're so good that you keep doing it, you could either run out of money, or someone's going to step in and go, you should probably stop spending 200 quid a month to get banned off stuff. I just don't think it's going to be as much of a problem. But I don't think it is, and I also hope it isn't going to be as much of a problem.
Well, I think it's the only thing that can break this game for me. I enjoy the game as it is, and I want to see the game develop.
Yeah.
But what could kill it for me is if the community is just unplayable. Like, I don't know what... I mean, I'm a YouTuber, right? So I read negative comments stand out like a fucking sore thumb to me. So when I see them in the chat, and I'm just like, oh, please. There's better things to do in my life than sit here and just get abused at by some guy. Or even if they're not talking to me, they're talking to somebody else in the team. And I'm just like I'd want to say, oh, mate, shut your mouth. But then that'd just spark an argument kind of thing. And that's the only thing. But as you say, that's going to happen in any kind of team-based multiplayer game.
Yeah.
We're just going to have to see how this develops and what Blizzard decide to do to sort of counter it. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been another quite long format video on Overwatch. There was some talk about us possibly doing a form of podcast, which we might do. I'm actually speaking to some other people about this, so kind of like maybe like Hotfix, which is one of the podcasts that we do, might be something that we may do every now and again. We'll have to see. If you do enjoy this kind of content, though, give the video a thumbs up and leave a comment below. Based on, I want to know what you think about Overwatch now, because the beta has kind of come to a close. You don't even have to have played the beta. Like, if you've just been following content on the beta, are you? I guess the one of the major questions I'd like you guys to answer is: Are you burnt out on Overwatch? Because they've given us a shitload of Overwatch,
yeah,
and now there's going to be a period where there's going to be a lull, and then it's going to come back out again with most likely new maps, new game modes, and new balance changes. And yeah, what are you looking forward to? Where do you think it's going to go in the future? And just basically anything you've heard us discuss in the video. If you want to give your own thoughts on that in the comments below, then by all means do it. I've been Stylosa. You can follow me on Twitter, which is @UnitLostGaming, and you can follow Kirioth. He is on
@Kirioth. Easy.
What a shock. And ladies and gentlemen, we will catch you next time. Toodaloo.